My name is Eva. Not long ago, I was a recent college graduate filled with hope and dreams for the future. Then, an unexpected phone call shattered my world. It was the devastating news of my parents' sudden death in a car accident. They were my support system and my mentors in life, and their loss left me reeling, like a ship lost at sea without its compass. My father was a man of jovial laughter and profound wisdom, always there to offer advice or a comforting embrace. Our conversations, ranging from philosophical debates to casual discussions about sports, were treasured moments of connection. He was not just my father, he was my stronghold against life's storms. My mother was the embodiment of kindness and support. She was there during the tense scenes of horror movies, stayed up late helping me with school projects, and always had a soothing word and a warm embrace ready. Her constant love was the calm in the chaos of life. Their absence created an overwhelming void, turning our home into a silent space filled with memories that echoed their absence. During this dark time, a man named Diego entered my life. He worked for a trading company and was at the accident scene. Moved by what he witnessed, he reached out to offer his support. His words were simple, but they anchored me during my storm of grief. Diego helped me handle the aftermath of the accident, the legal matters, the insurance, the never-ending paperwork. His presence became indispensable, and his kindness a balm for my grief. As time passed, our relationship deepened. One day, with a look of earnestness, Diego proposed to me. Despite the whirlwind of emotions, I saw his genuine care and support through my hardest times, and I agreed to start a new chapter with him. Our wedding was a joyous celebration, a day filled with laughter and hope. Afterward, we moved into Diego's expansive house, a grand but cold mansion that stood as a testament to his success. Although impressive, the marble halls sometimes made me uneasy. Shortly after settling in, I discovered I was pregnant. The news brought a new wave of joy and hope. I imagined our future child and the life we would build together, a continuation of love through generations. Diego shared in the joy, but as we prepared for this new addition to our family, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and a lingering unease about the shadows cast by the grand corridors of our new home. After our son Bryson was born on a crisp winter morning, life seemed filled with new joys. Bryson, a beautiful baby with Diego's dark hair and my bright blue eyes, brought a profound love into my life, so intense it often left me breathless. Diego appeared equally enchanted by our son, yet as time passed, a change in him became apparent. One evening, Diego returned home late from work, his face set in a firm expression that hinted at underlying tensions. "Eva, we need to talk about our expenses," he said, his voice missing its usual warmth. Surprised, I inquired what he meant. He responded by dropping a stack of bills on the table, his tone becoming chilling. "Since Bryson arrived, our costs have risen significantly. We're spending far more than before," he stated. I felt a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. "But Diego, we have a baby now." "Babies need things," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. His gaze was sharp and unyielding. "That's not the point." "Kay, you're buying things we don't need," he countered. His words stung, and I felt a surge of hurt and anger. I had always viewed Diego as my partner, but his remarks painted me as a burden, an unwanted expense. The following days were strained with tension. Diego scrutinized every purchase, accusing me of overspending. No matter how I tried to economize, he would say, "Eva, you need to understand the value of money. We need food, and Bryson needs diapers. We can't just stop buying essentials, I would argue. But his responses were always icy. Then make do with less, he retorted. I began to strategize every grocery trip, opting for the cheapest items, choosing store brands, and picking slightly bruised produce to save money. I walked to the store and back to avoid public transport costs. I followed Diego's strict rules, even on clothing. No new clothes, he would insist, firm and uncompromising. As I looked at my fading wardrobe, the frayed dresses and the worn shirts, a wave of sadness washed over me. I wasn't seeking luxury, just the basics that hadn't been worn threadbare. One day, I spotted a lovely little jumper for Bryson in a shop window. It was on sale, but still beyond what I could justify spending. With a heavy heart, I walked away, the image of the jumper lingering in my mind, a symbol of the constrained life Diego's priorities had imposed on us. When I returned home, Diego was already there, looking accusatory. "You were at the store, weren't you?" "Buying more unnecessary stuff," he charged. "I didn't buy anything, Diego," I responded, my voice calm but firm. "You've made it impossible for me to do so." He scoffed dismissively. "Don't play the victim, Eva. You're the one who can't manage her spending." My heart raced as I confronted him. "I'm trying to take care of our son, Diego." "Can't you see that?" Diego stood up, his face flushed with anger. "I am the one providing for this family, Eva. You're just squandering my money." Anger surged through me. "Your money? Diego, we are a family. It's supposed to be our money." He laughed coldly, a harsh, bitter sound. "Oh, Eva, you're so naive." I stood my ground, hands clenched. "No, Diego, I'm not naive. I'm trying to do what's best for our son." His glare intensified. "I'm trying to prevent us from going bankrupt, something you wouldn't understand." And with that, he stormed out, leaving me standing alone, heart aching. Despite his accusations, Diego's lifestyle hadn't changed. He continued to wear designer suits and splurge on the latest gadgets, a new phone, a laptop, a watch, while I struggled to mend old clothes and stretch our meals. "Diego," I would start, my voice straining to stay neutral, "why is it that you can buy new things, but I can't?" He would smirk smugly. "Because I earn the money, Eva. I get to decide how it's spent." His words felt like a slap. I was his wife, the mother of his child, yet he treated me like a mere burden, an unwanted expense. His priorities were clear. His gadgets mattered more to him than his own family. It was a grim Tuesday when Bryson fell ill, his little body burning with fever. His cries filled the room with pain. I searched the cupboards, my heart sinking at the sight of them empty. With no options left, I took the last of our cash, the money I had set aside for Diego's favorite steak, and bought medicine for Bryson. I knew Diego would be furious, but Bryson's well-being was paramount. He was my son, my baby, and I couldn't bear to see him suffer. That evening, Diego came home tired and irritable, expecting a lavish meal. When he saw the empty table, his face reddened with anger. "Eva," he said, his voice dangerously low. "Where's my dinner?" I swallowed hard. Bryson was sick. I used the money to buy him medicine. His eyes narrowed. "You what?" he bellowed. I repeated firmly, "I bought medicine for Bryson." Despite the fear gripping my heart, Diego slammed his fist on the table. "You spent my money on medicine for that brat?" His words made me flinch. "Bryson is our son, Diego. He was sick." He scoffed. "He's always sick, always needing something, just like you." My anger rose. "We're family, Diego." "We're not freeloaders." Diego stood, his face twisted with fury. "You're nothing but a burden, Eva. You and that kid, all you do is take." I stood firm. "We're your responsibility, Diego. You can't just abandon us." He laughed cruelly. "Watch me." He grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the door. "Get out," he commanded coldly. "Take your breath and get out." I stared at him, heart pounding. "Diego, please, he's sick." Diego's icy gaze bore into me, and he coldly declared, "Not my problem." With a forceful shove, he pushed Bryson and me out the door, slamming it shut behind us. Minutes later, he tossed a bag of our clothes onto the sidewalk. There I stood, holding Bryson tightly in my arms, the chill of the night seeping into our bones. I stared at the house, our home, now a fortress from which we were exiled. That was the moment I knew I couldn't stay with Diego any longer. I couldn't allow Bryson to endure his father's cruelty. We deserved better. We deserved a life free from Diego's anger and greed. With Bryson clutched in my arms, I walked away. Our future was uncertain, but my resolve was clear. I would fight for a better life for us. Diego might have pushed us away, but he couldn't break our spirit. We were stronger than he could ever realize. The city felt vast and overwhelming, a sprawling concrete jungle where we knew no one. Bryson, still a toddler, was too young to grasp the severity of our situation. We had no money, no friends, and no place to call home. It was like being adrift on a stormy sea. That's when I remembered Grandma, my father's mother. I had only met her once, but the memory of her large old house in a quiet town, far from the city's chaos, flickered in my mind. With the last of the cash found in an old jacket, I bought 2 inner-city bus tickets. Bryson and I boarded the bus, our hearts heavy but determined. The journey was long, and Bryson, feeling unwell, whimpered in my arms. I held him close, whispering words of comfort and promising a brighter future. We arrived in Grandma's town as the sun was setting. The large old house stood just as I remembered, a beacon of hope in our turmoil. Gathering my courage, I walked up to the door and knocked. The door creaked open, and there stood Grandma. She looked older than I remembered, her expression stern and her eyes sharp. "Yes?" she asked, her voice firm. I swallowed my fear and introduced myself. "Grandma, it's me, Eva, your son's daughter." She squinted, studying my face. After a moment, recognition dawned. "You have your father's eyes," she said, her tone softening. She opened the door wider, inviting us in. Inside, the warmth of the house contrasted starkly with the cold outside. I told Grandma everything, about Diego, about Bryson's illness, about our eviction. I poured out the fears and burdens I had been carrying alone for too long. Grandma listened, her expression hardening as I spoke of Diego. "That scoundrel," she spat, her eyes flashing with anger. "He'll get what he deserves." At that moment, I felt a surge of relief. Here was someone who believed in me, someone who was on my side. Grandma offered us a place to stay, a place to call home. We were no longer alone. We had Grandma. That night, as Bryson slept soundly in a warm bed and I sat by the fire with Grandma, I felt a glimmer of hope. The journey to Grandma's had been fraught with uncertainty and fear, but it led us to a safe haven. It was our first step toward a new life, a life away from Diego's shadow. The attic, a dusty, forgotten place filled with boxes of old belongings, hadn't been visited in years. Yet it held the promise of discovery and perhaps a fresh start. Hidden among the memories stored in those boxes, I saw potential. The air was thick with the musty aroma of old paper and mothballs, and the floorboards groaned under my steps. "Be careful, Eva," Grandma called from below, her voice echoing slightly. "It's been ages since anyone's been up there." I nodded, my gaze sweeping over the cluttered space. As a trained restorer, I saw not a dusty attic, but a treasure trove of potential. Old furniture, paintings, and various knickknacks, each begging to be brought back to life. With Grandma's blessing, I began to work on these forgotten pieces. I cleaned, repaired, and restored them, each item revealing its own story and history. It became a project of passion, a welcome distraction that helped me heal from recent hardships. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the attic transformed. The once discarded items emerged as beautiful antiques, their value greatly enhanced. Eager to see if these treasures could contribute to our new beginning, I took several pieces to a local antique shop. The shop owner, Mr. Jesse, was astounded by their quality. "These are fantastic, Eva," he exclaimed, his eyes lighting up with admiration. "Where did you find them?" "In my grandma's attic," I replied, a smile touching my lips. Mr. Jesse chuckled. "Well, she's lucky to have a granddaughter like you." I blushed at the compliment as he purchased the items for a sum that far exceeded my expectations. I returned home to Grandma, who was anxious to hear how I had fared. When I showed her the money, her eyes widened in astonishment. "Oh, my Eva," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I can't believe it." "It's all thanks to you, Grandma," I said, trying to contain my excitement. "These are your treasures after all." That night, we celebrated our small victory, a beacon of hope in our quest for a better life. The attic treasures had become more than just antiques. They symbolized that even in the darkest times, hope could be found. I continued restoring more items, each sale bringing us closer to financial stability. Meanwhile, Diego had not checked on us, not even a call to inquire about his son. He was likely too caught up in his new life to care about the family he left behind, but we wouldn't let him off easily. Grandma had a friend, Graham, a seasoned lawyer known for his no-nonsense approach. "We'll get that bastard," Graham had vowed, his eyes steely with determination. With his help, we filed a claim for child support. Diego was livid when he learned of the legal action. He called me, his voice dripping with venom. "You'll regret this, Eva," he hissed. "You don't know what you're getting into." But fear no longer held me back. "Bring it on, Diego," I retorted confidently. "We'll see who regrets it in the end." The day of the court hearing arrived. Diego swaggered into the courtroom, confident and arrogant, his lawyer in tow. He smirked at me, his eyes cold and unfeeling. But I stood my ground, bolstered by the newfound strength and independence I had cultivated from restoring the attic's hidden treasures. I remained composed as the courtroom drama unfolded. Graham, our lawyer, stood confidently, presenting our case with unwavering resolve. He detailed how Diego had forsaken his responsibilities, neglecting to provide any financial support for Bryson. The judge listened attentively, his expression revealing nothing. When it was Diego's turn, his lawyer spun a narrative of victimization, portraying Diego as a man wronged by a spiteful ex-wife. But we were prepared. I had secretly recorded Diego on the night he evicted us, capturing his venomous tirade. As the recording played, the courtroom was enveloped in stunned silence. Diego's harsh words laid bare his true character. Diego's complexion paled as his facade of confidence disintegrated. The judge's frown deepened, his gaze stern. "This court will not tolerate such behavior," he declared. "Mr. Jackson, you are ordered to pay child support as per the law, and additionally, compensate for the emotional distress you've caused your ex-wife and son." Diego, visibly shaken, stared at me, disbelief etched across his face. I didn't revel in his shock. The mere recognition of his defeat was satisfying enough. Post-hearing, Diego attempted to insinuate himself back into our lives. His tone was sweet, feigning concern. "Eva," he said, "let's start over for Brayson's sake." I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. "Start over with you?" I responded firmly. "No, Diego. We're done." His surprise was palpable. "But Eva," he stuttered, "you need me. You can't survive without my support." He was wrong. I had secured a job as a restorer, working with a local antique store and a museum, earning a decent income. "I don't need you, Diego," I told him confidently. "I've got a good job, and Bryson and I are doing just fine." After a pause, Diego's laughter, harsh and disbelieving, broke the silence. "You working? I don't believe it." "Well, you better start believing it," I countered, "because it's true. And guess what, Diego? I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving." Another pause followed, and then Diego hung up. His final words were a venomous sneer. "You'll regret this, Eva. You'll see." But his words no longer frightened me. I had discovered my strength and independence, and there was no turning back. The ensuing months were bustling with activity. I was busy with work, with Bryson, with life. Yet through it all, I felt profound happiness, the first in a long time. I was free from Diego's shadow, free from fear, and free from uncertainty. Grandma looked on with pride, her eyes twinkling. "You did good, kid," she said one day. "You stood up for yourself. You took control of your life." Her approval warmed my heart, reinforcing the new path I had courageously chosen. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of pride swell within me. "Thanks, Grandma," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you." And that was nothing but the truth. Grandma had been my steadfast support through it all, helping me rediscover my inner strength. For that, I was immensely grateful. The sweet taste of victory was more than just winning in court. It was a deeply personal triumph. It affirmed my resilience and my ability to stand up for myself. This victory was a declaration that I was far more than just Diego's ex-wife. I was a survivor, a fighter, a devoted mother, and a skilled restorer. Each of these roles defined me, gave me purpose, and fueled my determination. As I watched Bryson play, his laughter ringing clear and his face alight with happiness, I knew beyond any doubt that I had made the right decision. Choosing to fight and stand up for our lives had not been easy, but it was worth every struggle. We had not just survived, we had thrived. Through this journey, I learned the power of my voice and the strength of my convictions. I was no longer just someone who had been pushed to the limits by life circumstances. I was a person who had pushed back and carved out a better path for myself and my son. As Bryson's joyous laughter filled the room, I was reminded that this fight was not just for me. It was for his future, too. And we had won.